Broadcast from an orange sidewinder and hosted by a vending machine technician, it's Lave Radio.
This one.
Attention. Would you like to reorder Raider Radio? Would you like to do so?
Space can be loaded. What now?
Yes.
Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 70 of Lave Radio, the show that talks about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it.
That's you.
I'm your host, Second Technician Fossil Forester, and joining me at Lavecon 2015, we have the wonderful Mr. Grant Psycho Cow Wolcott. Hello. We have the wonderful Ben Moss-Woodward.
Greetings, Father.
And, of course, the ever so effervescent Mr. John Virgo, a.k.a. Crash. He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. And, obviously, sneaking in at just the last minute, we've got Mr. John Stabler.
Hello.
If you'd like to move to a station that has a microphone, that would be really helpful. Thank you, John. Okay, and last but not all least, we have the Lavecon 2015 crew. Excellent, and we've got obviously the live people following us on Twitch as well, so welcome to everybody that's listening live on Twitch. The show this week is going to be slightly different because obviously we are broadcasting live from Northampton at the Lavecon 2015 event. What we're going to do for the show, we're obviously going to go through some of the development news that we've currently been going over in the last couple of weeks. And then actually what we're going to do is we're going to throw it open to the audience. We're going to get a current state of development for the game. We're going to find out what people are loving, what people aren't loving quite so much. And we're going to actually sort of spitball that around. And then following this show, directly after the show, we've got the wonderful Frontier Development crew have come down to Lavecon 2015. And they've got a Q&A panel, which should be quite interesting. We've also got a late arrival to the show, Mr. Alan Stroud, Chief Station Officer of Lave Station.
Always got to make an entrance.
Sorry, I had to have some lunch. You know, I'm a bit overbooked, and to be fair, as well as that, I did kind of think there's quite a large station complement now, so I thought you'd probably be okay.
Oh, well, there was plenty of bodies here, yeah. It's just, you being the station commander and all, I thought you'd make an appearance, that's all.
You're going to get sick of my voice by the end of this weekend. You get to hear me a lot. So you will.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we will fire up... Grant, have we got adverts for this show?
Yeah.
Excellent. We'll go to an advert and then we'll come straight back for the latest development news.
I spend so much time in my Imperial Trader. I find it really hard to meet people.
I mean, when do you get the time to go to bars when you're taking on courier jobs for the military?
What
But
do
with
we do while the advert's
venusdating.com,
on?
it was so
Same
simple.
as you always do.
I just put in my personal details
we being
and
heard
they found
over
me my
the
perfect
I don't know.
match.
I really thought it would be difficult, but
Are we being
Venus
heard over
dating
the
made it
advert?
so simple.
Yes. Can you
With
guys
so
hear us
much
over
in
there?
common.
Yes.
No, they
We
can.
both like movies, walking along the beach at sunset,
Browsing Imperial shipyards.
and of course, since we started dating, we've discovered that we both really love shooting Thargoids. Let your voyage begin with venusdating.com for every first encounter.
Yeah, because I've got a light shining on it. But I can't even read that screen.
Excellent, and we are back. So the first thing we're going to talk about in the development news is the David Braben interview that was on the videogamer.com website. Now, Ben, I believe you had a quick go through this. Anything interesting to pick out?
I think one of the things that really interested me about it was how David is just always looking forward. So, back in the day, he was trying to figure out how do we squeeze things onto the BBC or even onto the onto the NES. I think was his proudest thing, as he says. But nowadays, just looking to what's going to come along in the next thing. So, for example, with the 4K or even 8K screen resolutions, but also with what they're doing with the Xbox One, and looking to use the glass thing for virtual keyboards and stuff, which I don't know if anyone else is doing that, but that sounds really awesome.
That's the Microsoft Smart Glass, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what sort of things are they actually suggesting that they can get out of the Smart Glass with Elite Dangerous?
Well, I know that's one of the things they mentioned for text input, for example, is very, very difficult on a little joypad. So that's one of the things that really, really helps that console experience. You can just have that right next to you. And even if you want to put it right next to where it is in the siding.
Maybe I'm being critical here. Is that not a massive cheat? To say that, we're not going to change the game interface for you because you're on a console. What you need to get is a separate Microsoft Glass structure, and then you'll have a keyboard, and that will work.
Well, yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way, but there needs to be a way of doing the input. You can do it without. You can use the joypad. You have the usual kind of clicking around. I've seen the odd hi message of people on Xbox. It's understandable, really. Fiddling around, but it's tricky.
But what about, say, in the Galaxy map? Sagittarius A is quite a lot of letters to put in on a joypad.
Sag A, that works. Close enough.
Ben?
Don't they have Microsoft's gamepads with little keyboards on them anyway?
Yeah, you
so
can.
you could use that rather than using the glass thing, I guess.
Yeah, you can use that as well. Yeah, there's plenty of options.
Surely the biggest benefit of the sort of Xbox is the sort of voice recognition?
So you really think that the voice recognition is going to pick up Sagittarius A, do you? Or LS-62482198?
If Voice Attack can do it, why can't they?
True, yeah, true. It was one of the things was mentioned. A lot of people were asking that and whether they were going to have support for the Kinect and the voice recognition and all that stuff. It's not currently in there, but I'm sure if Microsoft would like that to happen.
Is it up to Microsoft to put it in there, or is it up to Frontier?
It's more down to Microsoft allowing it to go in.
Well, doesn't it also come down to the fact that a game's resources are dependent on a game's purchases? So of course, and I hate to kind of state the obvious, but it kind of needs to have a audience before you can enhance and improve it, particularly with this game, because this game is about kind of gradual release, gradual development, and that requires buy-in. And if there is buy-in by not just Microsoft, but also, because we can talk about the publishers and we can talk about the design, the game manufacturers and what have you, but it's also about us, and it's also about the other people who've not played Elite Dangerous, who are on the Xbox, and who are that potential audience when they buy it. Then this is a game that is designed to be developed further. So if there is a market, then that development will happen.
Yeah, obviously I don't have an Xbox. What's been the general feel from the community in terms of how well is it being received on the Xbox One?
Where's everyone looking at me?
Because you've played it on the Xbox.
Well, no, I said I wasn't going to buy it in the Xbox, and then practically bought it the next day, and I've loved it. It's different. It's like I think when I was playing, it's one of those things you can fire it up sitting on the couch without having to bring the hot ass through your pedals and all this stuff and set it up all around you. You can just sit there, casually lay back, and the controls, once you've got the use of them, and once you get the hang of them, it's just, it's like a new challenge of gameplay. Suddenly, docking is becoming a nightmare again. And I was criticising Colin Ford about his comments about the controllers being rotten and not being able to do it, and it's just too difficult for him. And then promptly went onto YouTube and showed the most ridiculous docking process you have ever seen in your life. I mean, it was like a blind person trying to sort of do a 3-point turn. It was just, it was horrible.
There is a phrase about a three-legged cat, but it's probably not safe for work at this point in the afternoon.
See, and here's me. I was going to say that, Grant, I thought you took your hot ass everywhere you went, but maybe that's too early for that as well. Yeah, these are the jokes, guys. Okay, so just going back to that NES, Ben, what was it specifically about the NES that David Braben was so pleased about being able to achieve?
Just because the NES had such limited resources compared to the normal screens, I think.
Yeah.
The normal PCs at the time.
I think it was limited to 2 kilobytes of RAM, which is crazy. It's even less than...
It's nothing.
Yeah, some of the smaller, the BBC and
Yeah.
things like that. It's insane. He managed to squeeze that in that hardware. I think it was
Really
his most proud achievement. I think technically getting the game on there.
And when we played it on Retro Lave, was it the NES version that we played in emulator, or
It
was
was the NES version that.
So they
I
also
played
managed to cram in a
retro.
tutorial,
Yes. Yep,
which was
yep.
completely different to all the other versions that we played, and also a docking computer as standard.
Yep.
So I don't know what he's whinging about. That he's managing to struggle with the NES version, because he managed to put more features in the NES version than any other version that was going on at the time. So excellent. Anything else out of that particular interview that stood out to you, Ben?
Got the feeling he's maybe not so keen on the VR thing. VR's still cool. We love VR, but maybe it's not the be-all and end-all. Maybe it's a bit of a gimmick.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he said.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so conflicting
Sorry,
views.
I've rocked in late and I'm disappointed
You have.
you already.
I mean, thanks for turning up at all, Mr. Jarvis. I should probably give you a bit of an introduction, shouldn't we? So Christopher Jarvis has walked into the room. So head of station entertainment, Mr. Christopher Jarvis, has rocked up for the Lave Radio Show, only about 45 minutes late.
Right. No, I think I've got
But before we go any further, sorry, Chris, before we go any further, I should also say that you weren't the last in the room, because Lisa Vu has just come up from behind me and tapped me on the shoulder. So Lisa Vu is also in the room, head of station security. Which means we're pretty much all here apart from Colin Ford, who's not at the event. So well done, guys. Keeping it punctual.
We have a substitute Col Ford who is here at the event, almost the same name and slightly different outlook on all things gaming. But no, there are quite a lot of us here. What we are going to do, one or two of us have to go to different things, so we are going to sort of sub in and sub out a little bit.
Second shift.
Yeah, second team active in that regard. So yeah, sorry, Chris, you were saying.
No, what I was going to say about the David Braben's comments about the VR. Yeah, he was sort of going maybe a bit cooler towards it than he has been in the past. But I think his comments about it were really interesting, and that's that if you've got gaming in a space in the house, and suddenly that gaming is going away from a screen and going to something that is purely within a headset you're wearing, and it becomes a very introverted private space, you're actually you're drastically changing the position of that game kind of in your life. I mean, it's one thing to be kind of sitting at a computer and playing a game. You might be playing it on your own, but you're still kind of in the room with people. And I think what David Braben was talking about was about the impact on your relationship with the people around you. I'm not necessarily saying that it becomes a huge introverted thing, but people can't interact in any way with what you're doing if you're in like an Oculus Rift headset. Whereas if you're playing something on a screen, you're still kind of in the room. Even if you do what I do when I'm playing games, which is ignore everything that anyone says to you, I am still technically there. Whereas in a headset, you are, if you haven't tried the Oculus Rift, it is like being in a completely different place. And there is a moment of kind of weird perceptual shift when you take off the VR headset and you suddenly realise what room you're in. The VR takes you to a completely different place. And whether it's healthy for potentially a generation of gamers to grow up with stuff that's happening in this private space is something that we'll probably be debating for the next sort of 5 to 10 years, the impact.
I was going to say that's probably a bigger issue than this, but you also, I mean, you could look at the strategies of using VR in Elite Dangerous, and you could think about maybe the crew role that you are electing to take up. So if you want to be a lone wolf assassin who preys on, us innocent traders and folk, then maybe the VR incorporation, because you're not really socializing, you're not really interacting with other people. Maybe the VR incorporation, could reflect that. So you'd have perhaps a head-up display that is specific to that kind of design and that kind of role-played role within the game, as opposed to, because we know that VR just doesn't, because of the immersive level of it, it's so difficult to socialize in the game and out of the game. Maybe you just optimize it. Maybe that's what you do.
Okay, but I mean, talking about the fact that you're isolated, there is an option on the Oculus Rift, isn't there, to mirror the screen onto a separate display. So, I don't see how that's any different from someone sat at a computer console. Anybody that's standing behind you can still see what you're doing.
But you can't see what they're doing behind you.
That's what I was. That's what I was going to suggest. I mean,
Okay, so you're saying it isolates the person in the headset as opposed to the people around them. John, Stabler.
Yeah, I'm going to be very contrarian about this, actually. And to be honest, after reading David Braben's comments, I thought it sounded very Baroness Greenfield, talking about how technology is ruining our brains and how, if everyone's plugged into the Rift, then the world's going to end because no one's going to feed the babies and no one's going to go to work and stuff like that. But it's just another level of technology, and it's up to developers to actually address things like that. For instance, picture-in-picture, so that, if someone taps you on the shoulder, you can kind of look at them without having to take the Rift off, things like that. I mean, ultimately, there's nothing stopping someone walking up to you, ripping your headphones off and saying, "John, the house is on fire." So I don't think it's that immersive that you will sit there and burn to death. So unfortunately...
I'd be saying, "Who's John? Why are you calling me John?"
Well, you know what I mean. But as I said, I think David Braben, unfortunately, he's trying to show he's trying to be socially responsible towards VR. But personally, I think anyone who's worried about VR ruining the human species is kind of buying into that kind of fear mongering that's been going on for a lot of time. People don't trust technology, and they worry about. As you see pictures online, of young girls, oh, look, they're using their phones, they're not talking to each other, see, society's completely screwed. Really? I mean, if it wasn't for technology, I'd probably only talk to 10 people a year.
As opposed to the 12 that you talk to now.
Yeah, exactly. So, thank you, technology, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's quite surprising, because I to confess, I haven't read this particular interview, but David Braben's normally very positive on the advancements of technology. He's normally the first person out of the gate to say these things are great and they inspire us or persuade us to take things further. So it seems quite surprising that he's come out on the negative side of Oculus Rift, especially considering how much effort Frontier went into to make sure the Oculus Rift from DK1 was compatible with all the Elite Dangerous technology.
He was probably on a train and accidentally picked up a copy of the Daily Mail, and they had a VR special in there, and he read it, and he was like, "Oh no, what if we lose people in the Rift?" So,
oh no, what if we lose people in the Rift?
Okay, anything else out of that particular interview that anybody wants to pick up on before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just my overwhelming positivity, but the gist I got from the review was he was really just trying to say he didn't want to exclude anyone. I think he didn't want to make it so that everyone's looking at, the only way you can play Elite is VR, and all the toys and a hot ass and a fork, you needed all this stuff. It come across to me like he was just trying to say, you don't have to have this. It's a nice option, but it's still an option. It's not a prerequisite.
Yeah, I'd chime with that, John, in that when we interviewed him at the BAFTAs, Games BAFTAs, he said pretty much a similar thing in between the questions from Foz. We were talking about the percentage of players who had Oculus Rift who are playing the game on Oculus Rift, and he was absolutely astonished by that. But he was quite careful to sort of point out that the game at the time was not just about people playing it on the Oculus Rift, and that was almost a privilege enhancement or a thing that people who could afford it, it was great that they could use it.
But he was surprised because were we alpha or beta at that stage? I think we were probably still in alpha.
Yeah, we were still in alpha.
It was a crazy number, like 10 or 20% of people playing the alpha are actually logging in with DK1 headsets.
Well, I think it was higher than that. It was a lot higher.
Which it really did surprise us. But again, I think that was more of a testament to the people that were early adopters into buying into the alpha and putting the money into the development and everything else. They're the sort of people that are going to want to have a DK1 headset. So I'm sure that number has gone down now that we've gone to a wider audience. But I mean, talking about trying to go all inclusive and everything else, the fact that we've moved on to console surely ticks that box. I mean, yes, for PC players we're always going to have our hot asses, he says with a smile, but when it comes to consoles, surely that is allowing anybody to sort of pick up a gamepad and play the game. And pretty much the way they're going at the moment, they're allowing people to play exactly the same game that we're playing on the PC. Okay, so the graphics might not be exactly the same, but they're playing in the same universe. They're getting the same experience. At the moment, maybe a little bit more of an experience than the rest of us, but that's a topic for a different matter. So surely that question about having Oculus Rifts and the latest gaming rigs and stuff is a null point. if you're going to expand it onto the console generation.
Yeah, I think that was the point they were trying to get across in the interview there, was he still wants to get it to as many people as possible. That's the most important thing in his mind. Doesn't matter how, just needs to get it out there to as many people for them to experience it.
Okay, so let's move on to the dev update of the 9th of July. The main one coming out from this is that Frontier wants to do sort of more story-driven content. Now, how do people feel about this? Because the story side of things, in terms of the Galnet and everything else, it's been a bit hit and miss.
What are you doing? Okay.
The story side of the universe at the moment has been a bit sort of hit and miss in terms of when I talk to people. Some people are absolutely glued to the Galnet feeds and they're glued to the stuff that's coming through on PowerPlay. Other people are completely oblivious to what's going on. What do you guys reckon on the panel? Is this something that the community are going to want to engage in, or is this sort of going to be sort of, I don't know, extra polish that nobody's really going to pay any attention to? You can see why I sent Frontier out of the room before we started having these conversations.
Constructive criticism is fine.
I know I'm terrible in that I really do want extra story-driven content and things like that, but I'm equally terrible in that even though we've now got the Galnet feeds in the cockpit, I don't read them when I'm flying around. I'm too busy flying around. So
is that even the case if you've got a big sort of jump between sort of entering into a system and going to a station, you still don't flick over to...
If I'm going between a station, I'll jump onto Skype chat or something like that and talk to the other guys.
Right, okay.
The main times I actually read the Galnet feed is actually on the website whilst I'm meant to be doing other things.
Okay, so let's look at it a different way then. What media or what particular technology, or how do you think, if it's not going to work, because all the time that they were talking, we said we want Galnet feeds in cockpits. That's the only way we're ever going to read the Galnet news. They've done that, and we're still not reading the Galnet news. So
well, that's just me. They might be. I don't know.
Well, what you're saying rings true to me as well. So apart from I don't talk to people on Skype, I watch Breaking Bad on the other screen. But what way to present the Galnet news would actually allow you to read it in a way that you're interested in? I mean, is it the sort of thing we want on our tablets? Is it the sort of a separate app? Is it the sort of thing we want to read on a commute on the way to work? Do we want Lave Radio to start reading it out on podcasts, God forbid? What sort of way would allow people to engage with the Galnet news and get involved in the fiction and the story that they're building around this universe?
I think layout's an issue. I think it would be if you had some weird kind of modern version of like a broadsheet newspaper, where instead of seeing the Galnet news as kind of individual things you click on and have a block of text, if it were laid out in a kind of newspaper format, like a holographic newspaper that appears on your lap in the cockpit, where you can see different stories in different positions and you can kind of get at a glance things going on, I think that would be a slightly different approach to it, because your eye would naturally be drawn to the stories that you're most interested in. Whereas the thing with Galnet is you have to kind of click through every story before you can engage what you're interested in. And that's not really how traditional sort of print media works. And I think if we've seen anything about the way that, I know print media is kind of, I don't offend anyone that works in print media, but if we're looking at print media kind of going out and digital and internet media replacing it, if you look at the way heavily content-driven websites, things like IGN and Microsoft One and all these things, if you look at the way the websites are laid out, it's actually still done in a very newspaper format. You have headlines, you have smaller text underneath it, you have breakout boxes that give you a little bit of a story that encourage you to click through and go to other things. And I think if the Galnet feed looked more like a kind of journalistic publication, you might read it rather than it looking like a kind of, almost like a kind of wiki of game background that says, come here and immerse yourself in me. I think for me that would be the difference.
So you think the fact that it's just a blank wall of text, or a blanket wall of text, is what's stopping people from actually engaging?
Yeah.
It's a database.
It does need to be broken up by something. That's what it needs to, because it's like when you look on the internet and somebody's posted on the forum, and all you can see is wall of text, no paragraph, no line breaks, no nothing, and you're like, nope, scroll past.
So you reckon the Galnet feed needs a too long did not read section for
TLDR.
TLDR, absolutely.
Or the other thing that might be nice is, the way, certainly like in venues like this, you'll have a TV with like BBC News 24 running on it. What's that?
With a ticker running on it.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe so you've got those holographic screens outside stations, particularly if you're in like power play controlled systems. If there is what looks like a sort of BBC News 24 thing running on those screens that's maybe showing one story at a time with the head of the power play figure that it's talking about, with summary text going across the bottom, and then when that one's done it switches to another one. So you're not necessarily able to absorb all of the Galnet story that way, but you're getting glances of it as you're flying around the universe, and you're picking up on the idea of ongoing storylines, and it's making the universe feel populated, which I think is, like, for me, that's the thing that's really nice about the Galnet, is it makes it feel like the universe is populated and there are things going on.
Yeah, definitely, and certainly from my EVE background, that was one of the things I really did enjoy about EVE Online, is the interactivity of the bulletin boards that you saw around the systems. They used them to great effect in terms of showing you who was the most wanted pirate in that particular system, or the latest information, or even just sort of ads for Coke and things like that, or the futuristic Coke. So I think that's actually a really good way, because whatever you're doing, by the time you get to docking, you are actually paying attention. You're no longer watching Breaking Bad. You know, if you're trying to dock your Type 9, you're very much focused on that letterbox when you come into the station. So to have them portraying information about the Galnet stuff, I think would actually make a big impact to how many people actually then click through.
Maybe it could be an alternative to the Blue Danube when you're auto-docking, though.
Well, they actually read the news to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to think of things that aren't going to be quite development intensive.
Yeah, that's what I kind of think. As much as I would like a holographic display as you're going 200,000 light seconds across, and you get that semi-transparent screen comes up and the fully animated newsreader and full vocals, that would be fantastic. But I think it comes down to a question of balancing the development time versus what it adds to the game. And the most important thing is what's your audience? What are you trying to get across to them? And I mean, I must admit, I do read the Galnet news, but it's not so much to catch up with things. It's like I'm trawling it for little bits of information. Like, what have I missed? What are the powers up to? What's going on? But yeah, I mean, layout aside, there are some interesting things in there. It just, the presentation probably could do with some work, I suppose.
Okay, so in talking about going through the Galnet news and trying to pick out little tidbits of information and stuff, and doing a bit of investigative work. The other thing that came through in the development update is the fact that they are interested in the puzzles and mysteries, like the ones they've done for the unknown artifacts, and they're going to continue to develop this idea. Now, the unknown artifacts, I think, worked really, really well. I think that's one of the things of recent developments.
It's still working well.
That's really sort of captured the. Really captured. Oh, hold on. You'll have a turn. Don't worry. Heckling from the audience. It's one of the things that has really sort of captured the community's imagination. I'm sure we'll probably have a few people coming up to the mic and telling us a little bit more about it in the next section. But I think that sort of development is a really good place to sort of aim for. What is the latest, by the way, on the unknown artifacts?
It's unknown.
It's unknown. Excellent. Okay.
The last I heard, various NSA hackers and things like that were trying to figure out what's going on, and they didn't have a clue either. Okay,
so the other thing coming out of the dev news, they're still digging into the stuttering around planets. Now, this is something that certainly where the planets have got rings is something that's still happening on my system. Are you guys still experiencing it?
Aye.
On and off. I mean, different scenarios. Yeah, I mean, definitely flying past planets. That's improved for me. It got a lot better than in the last patch. I think the same with everyone else. Something went back in the 1.307, whatever it is. It is definitely a lot better in that now. Strangely enough, if I turn the graphics settings right down to bare minimum, it's worse. So I think it is some like thread synchronization thing rather than some technical limitations.
Okay, so you don't think there's going to be another fire on the forums about downgrading the graphics in order to make
a fire on the forum?
I thought my theory about it, which I was putting around in a kind of totally unknowledgeable fashion, was that the stuttering around planets with rings seemed to appear in a roughly similar time that they did the persistence of asteroid content. So I wondered if the stuttering is a network issue rather than necessarily a graphics issue. I
think it was related to the way that the shaders were changed to generate the it's something to do with that. They changed the algorithm so that it could be reproduced in the same pattern each time. So because of that, it was slightly different. I think that's the answer.
And if you're interested about the real answer, just wait until the Q&A panel with Frontier in about half an hour. Sorry, Ben.
I just want to point in something really good from this Twitch chat that Dexter Maximus is saying he likes the idea of having faction-based news. So, for example, if you're in a Hudson-based system, then it would refer to President Hudson as a good guy. But if you're in, say, the Alliance, then might say, that evil, nasty warmonger.
Yeah.
I think, getting things organised to the way that you're looking at them.
I think
sense.
I think it's a cracking idea, and it's also one. I mean, we forget because we're all interested in playing the game as it currently stands. But if you think back to the development days back in the DDF, and we're talking about how the Galnet news is going to work and things like that, there was always thought that there would be different publications out there depending on whereabouts you were in the galaxy. So you'd have Federation news, you'd have Imperial news, you'd have the Galnet news that was supposedly independent of everything. Then you'd also have sort of trading news, particularly a trading rag, to give you some idea about the best places to go for great trade routes. That's yet to come in, but you could see how that could be easily implemented, apart from someone writing all the stuff. But you can see how it could be easily be implemented and get quite a decent comeback from that.
I was going to say, I think that would be a heck of a lot of work for the guys, really, unless you've got some kind of automated news writing article story, in which case then that would get rid of a whole load of journalists from BBC News Online. Sorry, they do have that. They copy and paste from the wires, don't they?
I think there might be something like that in there to a degree.
To a degree, but it's...
There definitely is some elements in there, the generative stuff. Some of the news stories do get...
I think people are trying to get Fozza drunk. Come on, drink up, Foz.
He's only 2 pints behind.
Come on. Do it.
But I think... He's tempted.
So...
Shall I move along? Yeah.
The next Xbox release is supposedly going to include CQCC into the game. Is that CQCC, or is that actually supposed to be just CQC?
It's Close Quarters Combat Championship.
Oh, it's a championship. Okay.
So it is a double C.
It is a double C. It's
Sorry,
not just
Foz, I asked the same question on the podcast episode.
Okay, fine. So, the next Xbox release is going to include this. Grant, how much have you actually played in terms of that?
None.
Right. Is that because they're not putting it in until the next release?
That would be right.
No,
it looks
more
good.
beer,
I will be.
please.
I will no doubt be gushing over it in the very next episode after that.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the wrong word? It's not the best word.
I don't think we really need to gush, do we? Right. So they have shown us a sort of a peek of the week for the cluster compound, which is the third map for CQCC. For those people that can remember back to the concept arts, you probably recognise that these floating structures, the compounds, we've actually seen it way back. I thought you were going to put it on the big screen. I thought that was going to be very clever.
I wondered why you were waving at a tablet that no one could see.
So yeah, all these assets and stuff we have seen in the early posters. I know because I've got one of these hanging on my wall in the office. So it's great to see these assets, these sort of concepts coming through and actually being part of the game. Have we heard any news about when this is going to be incorporated into the PC build? We still think it's going to be sort of December.
Yeah, I think they've said
it's before the end of the
holiday,
year.
haven't they?
Yeah, holiday is what I heard. Okay.
But is that holiday for
Summer
beta?
holiday? That'd be cool.
Yes.
Is that holiday for beta, or is that holiday for the final thing, though?
I'm pretty sure it's Christmas. That's our Christmas present this year from Frontier Developments, is what I'm expecting. Okay, so going straight on to newsletter number 82. Summer sale and stuff. Who's already succumbed and bought stuff in the sale? Really?
There's a sale on.
There's a sale on.
There's technically 2 sales, because there's the sale of the Elite merchandise on their web store, and there's also a huge reduction on Steam. You can get Elite Dangerous for like 50p or something. You can't get it for 50p.
Yeah, I was going to say just a quick word.
But it's about a third off, is it, or something?
Okay.
Yeah, it's the 33% off. But that's also on their store as well. I'm not sure what it is on Steam, but certainly 33% off for. Is it just this weekend?
It's to celebrate Lavecon.
It's to celebrate.
It's their summer sale.
So it's just this weekend
Just
then?
said,
Okay.
For us, that's the map up on the screen for everyone.
Yeah. So all those sort of clusters, those compounds, they were in early concept art that we saw. I think even as far back as Lavecon 2013 was one of the ones. I think Michael Brooks, it was one of his favourite concept arts that didn't get selected by the community to take forward into into poster
So they're
format.
doing it anyway.
Is this the one that
So it's only
also
taking him
has
2
the
years.
old Diamondback in it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the rare goods contest. Who's been keeping up with this? So they're basically asked players, and they're using the forums for it, which is brave. They are asking players for a new rare goods. So they're inviting everyone from the community to submit their ideas for a brand new rare goods. Now, anybody on the team had a thought about?
Yeah.
No, not you, Grant.
Yeah. I'd like there to be rocking horse shit as a commodity.
Moon on a stick.
Fiction licenses.
Or unobtainium or something like
Unobtainium.
that.
I like the idea of unobtainium.
Hand-wavium.
Jumpers.
Are there not jumpers in game
I was going to say,
already?
I'm pretty sure there's Braben woolens or something. Isn't there? Some planet there is.
I thought there was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a rare goods.
I'd like to suggest that the rarest good in the Elite Universe is fiction licenses.
Oh.
Oh, come on.
Too soon.
I'm allowed one.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so apart from rocking horse poop and unobtainium, have we got any ideas on the panel?
Oh, you want a serious idea?
I want a serious idea, guys. Just one. That's all I'm asking for.
Crash-branded energy drinks.
Crash-branded energy drinks. Don't clap that. Don't clap that.
He has a problem. Don't encourage him.
They could have trilithium.
Trilithium. I think that might be. Is that not patented?
Yeah, but it was only in one ever film, so it's you could get away with it and say, well, in our universe, it's everywhere.
Okay, so I think that pretty much does it for the development chat that we've got for the time being. We don't want to step on the guys from Frontier's toes too much. They've got the panel coming up next, so we want to give them something that they can actually talk about before we talk about it all here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a quick ad break. Hopefully we have a quick ad. And then after that, we're going to go to Community Corner, and we're going to go to the main discussion topic, which is SOD, the state of development.
We buy any ship, bar none. We buy any ship, bar none.
Can we get this to the viewers?
Be a little bit louder. I get that. Oh, stop playing.
Oh, technical difficulties.
We buy any ship, bar none. We buy any ship, bar none. Any model, any colour, any shape, any size. We buy any ship, bar none. We here at We Buy Any Ship, bar none are ready to take your excess space travel vehicles off your hands. No more negotiating with dodgy space station vendors. We'll simply give you an estimated quote online. Then, when you get here, we'll point out all the little dents and scratches that make the price get smaller and smaller before we actually give you any money. And the beauty is, we take any ship. We buy any ship, bar none. Terms and conditions apply. We Buy Any Ship excludes trading in any of the following vehicles: Adder, Anaconda, Asp, Boa, Cobra, Constrictor, Cruisers, Eagle, Falcon, Gecko, Griffin, Gear, Harris, Harrier, Hawk, Kestrel, Crate, Lanners, Lifters, Lions, Mantis, Merlin, Moray, Osprey, Panther, Puma, Python, Seiko, Sidewinder, Skeet, Spar, Stowmaster, Tearsel, Tiger, Transporter, Turner, Viper, Wyvern, or any Imperial or Thargoid vessels.
Okay, and we are back. So, this is Lavecon 2015. We were starting the first Lavecon back in 2013. The game has obviously come a long way since then. So we've got a big group of audience participation candidates stroke volunteers in the room with us at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw it open to you guys and just say, not all negative. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about where it currently is, where we want it to be, and the journey that we've been on. So who'd like to come up and talk about the game to start with? Excellent. Come on. Round of applause. Don't forget to say your name for the people at home. It should be.
Yeah, hi there. I'm Commander Shan, to sort of give you my view on the state of the game. I'm a real Elite fan, I've been playing Elite since '84, and one of the things I really enjoy about the game is how it allows people to contribute towards the universe. And I feel at the moment there are two groups of players. There are a group of players who want to create the content, and there's a group of players who want to consume the content. And I'm just curious to see which way the balance is going to go between the content contributors and the consumers, because I feel it's a bit of in the balance at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Thank you very much. So, guys, what do we reckon? So, I'm definitely a consumer. Creation takes far more work, and I'm far too lazy. So, Frontier did open it up, and they did ask certainly some of the fiction writers to put in some more information and write some more stories and stuff, which appeared on the Galnet News.
There was a big groan from the audience there. Just a slight mumbling.
Do you think there's dissension in the ranks about the fiction authors?
Yeah.
Is the senator still with us? No, excellent. Fine. So we got away with that. That's not a problem at all. Alan's doing another panel. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, just going back, you've gone and sat down now, but what sort of content are you hoping that the group of creatives will actually produce? Are you looking at missions? Are you looking at sort of story arcs? Are you looking at some of the groups that have like the First Great Expedition, the group systems that have come about and the stories that they're creating? What sort of stuff do you want to see?
I'm thinking more of the emergent gameplay style, where people with Frontier put the tools in the hands of the players to be able to create content events within the game universe. So I'm not talking about specific authors writing external to the game material, as great as that is. I would just like to see more tools which the players can then use to enhance the Elite universe.
Okay, that's a good point. So, I mean, certainly Kate's, is it Destruction Derby?
Yes.
Yeah, things like, take it things like that, so sort of different ways of playing the game that you want to see.
Yes, exactly. It's more about putting the tools, I think, as I say, in hands of players. And I remember the protest goat, which was the effort to try and get Destruction Derbies enabled back, for example.
Yeah.
It goes sort of more beyond that. There was an instance, I think, on a stream the other week where a group of players had kidnapped one of the fuel rats and held them hostage, and then a group of players then decided to try and rescue the fuel rat from these evil hostage takers. And that's the sort of gameplay, I think, that could really enrich people's experience within the game, and I would just love to see more of that kind of thing happening within the game.
Okay, so what sort of tools do you think are required? What do you think Frontier Development needs to give us in order to be able to help us develop those sort of expanding gameplays?
Going back to your point on the Galnet and that sort of storyline, I think setting the scene for people to do imagination to kick in would be great. I mean, one of the examples way early on was there was an article about the Silver Comet, which was a story in one of the fiction books. And I was a bit disappointed that the Silver Comet wasn't actually in the game, because I know we went hunting to try and find it. So I would like to see them take the fiction, the events that players come up with, and then insert them in the game at certain points, so the players can actually join in and bring that into their own thing. Because one of the great things about Elite, for me, was it sparked my imagination off. When I first saw it as a 14-year-old, it blew my mind back in '84. It sparked my imagination in ways that no game had never done before. So I would like to have that same kind of imagination sparking going on in the wider community.
Yeah, I can understand that. To defend, sorry, I was going to say, to defend Frontier, didn't I'm going to butcher this, but was it not the Buckyball run? The challenge where somebody set up a particular sort of like Cannonball Run race around the system. Was that not sort of incorporated in some of the Galnet feeds and also supported by Frontier? Yeah. So they did back it to that, but what you're saying is you want to go to another step further and do more of that? Or?
Well, I think the players should take it on themselves to help generate the content more, because we can't rely on Frontier to do everything, because they only have a certain amount of time and effort. So I think we just need to take it on ourselves to generate our own content, because one of the things that people, I think, often think about is, well, there is no end game. Where's the end game? Well, the reality is the end game is what you make it. And I think somehow we need to get that message communicated to people to say, well, the end game is what you make it. Ships are tools, not progression, for example. So I think we just need to take things on more on ourselves. And the instance about power play is very much a consumer-based thing, because it's very much here's the content, churn it out, and do that. So it's a difficult balance between content consumer and contributor. I think that we just somehow need to address together with Frontier.
Yeah. If you did say have the Silver Comet in game and you were the one commander to go and kill it, what happens to everybody else though?
Well, that's always the trick regarding content like that, because one of the things I like about Elite is you're in fact really a nobody. You're not the savior of the universe. You're not Luke Skywalker or Han Solo or anyone else like that, as much as you might like to think you are. That's the sort of thing I like to. I don't really want to see in game. So it's a difficult balance between, oh, I'm the one who killed the Silver Comet, or
it might not be the Silver Comet, but well, isn't this the same idea as the isn't it basically the assassination missions that you're wanting? The assassination missions are saying we've got this really
story critical character.
Yeah, this character who, as far as you and I are concerned, he's actually a nobody, but as far as the story is concerned, he is a somebody.
But I think it goes back to, sorry, I don't want to hog the...
No, keep going.
I think it goes back to one of the quintessential problems with multiplayer games, is that very few people actually read the quest text. They just look at the amount, oh, I get 300,000 credits for this target. They don't bother reading the story behind it. They just say, right, I get this for this.
Definitely.
I want to kill 10 rats. I don't care about why they've got rats in the cellar. I just want to go and get the 10 rats to get in the loot. And the issue is, I think, is that it doesn't matter how good a story you put in, a lot of people won't read it. Whereas you talk about the assassination missions, if you were interdicted by this guy who then shot you up, you've then got a reason to go after him.
So you'd almost like him to initiate the event, and then somebody say, hey, I saw you got beaten up by Joe Bloggs. We'll give you money to go and get him, please.
Yeah, it almost becomes in MMO terms a dynamic event. You become pulled into the story by things happening to you, rather than reading quest text, which essentially is what the bulletin board is. Because in my experience, very few people actually read the quest text, and that's, I think, the difficulty with those bulletin board missions.
No. I think that makes a lot of sense about the idea of him intercepting you and starting the mission himself.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that they need to give us more tools, and the fact that they've built this universe which is this deep and interesting canvas, and there's things going on, and we can observe it, we can get involved. But as it stands at the moment, it's very hard to create with it. There's not many tools which allow you to create some interesting content. I mean, what the few rats have done is fantastic. The commanders that are staying near the center of Sajay and helping people out, that stuff is fantastic, but there's very limited scope for what players can do, and it's very hard for people to imagine how to create some content.
The one thing I'd love to see in a game is when you're involved in emergent gameplay, it's over before there's a chance to expand it, and that's the challenge. But if you had dedicated members of staff, whether they be community people who can flag events, who could then create that event and that then hits the Galnet feeds as some kind of bulletin or urgent breaking news, then you're able to report on it. Because I think one of the most successful and excitable kind of community thing that happened was the unidentified artifacts, because everybody was talking about it, everybody wanted to be there, and then we got to the point where nobody could figure it out, and we all kind of thought, meh, all right, we'll wait and see what that is, and then we'll all go, I knew that. Just like
the other thing that sprang to mind with that was the Titan Black quests.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I know there was a prize at the end of it, but the search for the Titan Blacks was something I think caught a lot of people's imaginations to try, well, where are they headed? That kind of stuff I think would be great. And what I'm very optimistic for this, by the way, because I think planetary landings, when they come, and being able to walk outside your ship, brings in a whole new scope of possibility for this kind of content. Because they could drop in a rumour of a crashed spaceship somewhere out in this range of systems. And it would kind of like, you can just put little seeds in that doesn't take a lot of effort to do, but requires a lot of imagination to fill in. And that's the sort of thing I think would be great.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so moving on to the next point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keith.
just in terms of the Galnet feeds we have in game at the moment, I think there's too many scroll bars. I don't know if Piers agrees with that at all. But basically, being able to browse through those in a more, in an easier fashion, so we can just skip through, like a newspaper article, like you guys were saying earlier on, might make it easy to pick up the storylines that are running through the game. So I think it would encourage people to access that content more easily and hopefully drive people forward.
Okay, so we did talk about this on the in the last subject. So what, in your mind, would make it easier to access that information? I mean, we've said at the moment it's a wall of text and nobody is really interested in reading it. How would you like to see it presented or portrayed? How do you think people should digest this information?
Well, I think the screen itself that presents the Galnet feed is very large, with very little space for actual content. There's quite a big banner at the top, this sort of thing. If we had a way to scan through that content easier, reduce the banner images, make it slightly easier to actually absorb the content and skip through, less clicking involved, less scrolling, it may make it more approachable to the user.
Yeah, again, I think this is probably one of the questions that Frontier are probably going to have levelled at them in terms of making the Galnet more accessible. I don't think it's there yet. I think that we do need to have a look at it. Okay, so thank you very much, Keith. Anybody else in terms of where the current game... Excellent. So just for the sake of time, if you see that the microphone is empty, please feel free to stand up and go over there. That way it's a little bit less...
One thing that's coming out of the chat channel...
Do get close to it, though, because otherwise we can't hear you and Twitch can't hear you either.
We need you to eat the microphone, please.
People who know me know I know microphones.
Quick introduction, who are you?
Commander Bullshot.
Sorry, what?
Sorry?
Bullshot.
Commander Bullshot.
Yes.
Excellent. Just to clarify.
I'm not sure I believe him.
I'm an original Elite player all the way back from 1984. I love the universe. I've enjoyed playing the game up to now. It's a little thin at the moment, and real life has been getting in the way. But it's a fantastic platform for us to grow a magnificent universe. One idea which I used to play Star Trek Online a lot, which Star Trek Online brought on, which I think is a fantastic idea if Frontier can bring in, is the Story Foundry. And if they can make that happen, whereby creatives can generate their own missions to place into the game, that would be awesome. Because we've got the canvas, let the artists draw and paint.
Okay, that's a really good idea. Like that a lot. The initial sort of comeback to that, however, is that not everybody loves what every artist does, and everybody's interpretation of what makes art does not sort of go across every level. So what you might think is a fantastic mission, how do you get the quality control in there, do you think, and to ensure that people don't get this mission and say, what the am I playing here?
We all know the kind of mission that Grant would make for us.
We don't really need a dock. Actually, no, there is a dock. There is a place for a docker's mission every now and again.
I'm just thinking, on the lines of when you're logging in, and for the umpteenth time in a row, you've been made some blooming target, and everyone in the universe is hunting you down. You think, oh, come on!
The power of the crowd works. You have a rating system. That's the thing.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
And then the good stories are the ones that get put to the top of the list, and people get to know and talk about the good stories, and so on and so forth. And those authors get kudos and maybe in-game benefits or whatever. The whole point is it gives you a palette with which to create.
It creates new narratives as well,
Exactly.
because you're going to have 5 different storylines going, but not all controlled and all related to the one thing.
And as we know, we all like different aspects from the game, so we want different authors to create different stories. The whole idea is to generate more content from whatever angle, and okay, so you don't like this kind, fine. Somebody else has produced this one, and you may think that's brilliant.
Would you have some kind of vetting system in place, though, either before it went out, or at least a retroactive pull, or what?
I have to be honest, I haven't played Star Trek Online in a while, but it depends on how much effort is required to do it. The crowd test... I suspect that the crowd will vet it on their own, and the votes up and down will make that kind of thing happen.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
people will say, oh, there's a new thing, I'll give it a go, and they'll expect that'll be good or not. And hence the good creators will get voted up. And as long as there's people accepting the fact that people start off not so good and can develop over time as they get used to the tools, that's the space.
Yeah,
So you're
I
saying
like
it's
the
almost
idea.
like a Reddit system then? Where
Yeah, I like the idea. However, there is a glaringly obvious problem that I can see is that we've got, and we've talked about it on the Conclave, we've got some big old player groups coming into the Elite Dangerous universe. We've got the Mobius group. We've got is it Red Crimson Sun? We've got a lot of sort of group play going on at the moment, and if the system that you're talking about goes into place, there's nothing stopping the Mobius group from writing a mission that says Liam Rafferty is the king of the universe, and you need to do all these particular missions, and they can just get all their members to click through and say this is the best mission since sliced bread. Where do you put the vetting system? Or, I mean, does it eventually have to go to Frontier Development, or do you think if that's what the players want, that's what the players should get?
It's a tricky thing. I suppose Frontier should always have ultimate sign off, or ultimate, shall we say, sign out. If it goes wrong, there should be the freedom to create whatever you like, but if it becomes offensive or whatever, then there should be the ability to turn it off.
So Frontier would release a Mobius is dead.
Now, I appreciate the game being the persistent universe and stuff may cause this to be an issue because effectively it's a sandboxed small piece of game within the game, so I don't know how that would necessarily work, but if people accept that, it's a story within the game. You take part in this small bit, but...
Okay, and again, just to follow up for that, we've been talking about the Galnet News presenting information in a particular way that nobody wants to read. How would you present that particular sort of player-created content? I mean, would you just put it into the mission systems, or how would you try and get it across?
It would make perfect sense to be part of the mission system, yes. You'd have sort of like the standard sort of power play missions or whatever, and then you could have the sort of sign-off bit that would be for the community-generated content.
Okay, taking that to the next level, do you see a place where the loot that you can get from these particular missions should be different to the standard loot? I mean, do you think that there should be certain equipment that you can only get through these sort of player-created content? Would that be an added draw?
It's an opportunity, but this is a place for stories. And the whole point is people to enjoy the stories. And that's what, from what I've seen, a lot of the community wants at the moment. It is this wonderful universe which is a little dry at the moment. They want the stories, and that's what it's there for. Frontier could certainly pop in a few specials to help out. Maybe if your author has got the best ratings for this month or whatever, through whatever management of that system is, they get for their next one something nice to put in or whatever. There's so many opportunities and so many ideas that can come from that.
Excellent, Bullshot. I like that a lot. Any other further comments from the panel?
Really like it.
Yeah, really like that idea. Thank you very much indeed. Round of applause, please. I'm not sure our microphone stand goes that high, Danny.
Up to 35,000
I
feet.
guess it does.
If only Danny was here.
My name is Danny, in Commander Ramclap in the game. Enjoy the game very much. Been playing it since '84. Still have my BBC and the original disc that works. Wow. Do PvP most of the time, fighting. What I don't like at the moment is that the rating system for the NPCs has no meaning whatsoever. I mean, I'm flying around in my. I have a Vulture, which is, I think, one of the best fighting ships in the game. I fly around in my Vulture, no matter what kind of ships, what rating you have. It can be an Elite Anaconda, it can be a group of 5 Vultures ranging from dangerous to Elite. There's no problem, I can kill them all. And it is, no, it's too
You're
easy.
doing that flying ship,
I
Danny.
would like the ships, the NPC ships to be so good that I am afraid of an Elite Vulture.
Just wait for 1.4.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure how much we can talk about, because I was privileged to have, we have Sarah Jane Avery, who was turned up today, and she's obviously from Frontier. She's in control of the AI for the NPC ships. And she loves going on the forums because there's a lot of complaints about the fact that your mostly harmless NPC ship is just as dangerous as your dangerous or elite rated ships. Hopefully she's going to be on the Q&A panel, so you can put this question to her. I know the answer to it, and as Karash has just mentioned, 1.4, by all accounts, sounds like that's going to flip it on its head.
Alrighty, looking forward to it.
Okay, so thank you very much, Danny.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else brave enough to come up to the microphone? We've got probably about another 20 minutes or so, probably a little bit less.
So, Simon seems to be shaking his head.
15.
That's about
20. For those of you listening at home, he's just jumped up on a chair.
Yes, just to fill in the people that are watching on the Twitch stream, my microphone had to be set quite high for Danny, who's a little bit tall, shall we say. Sam, however, has just come to the microphone, is a little bit on the other side of the spectrum. So you.
He's also short.
So if you'd like to bear with us whilst we make a few microphone adjustments for Sam.
Frontier made
Sam.
Sam.
In the microphone, mate.
Closer.
Put it too low. Sam, Commander Cassius. Frontier made a big effort.
Whoa, back the hell up. Why did you say Sam nice and confidently and then mutter Commander Cassius?
So everyone
What have you been
writes it
up to
down.
in
It's like
game that
that,
you're
so-
so ashamed of that you don't want to tell people?
Absolutely nothing, honest. It's all that slave all that slave trade. Frontier made a very big deal of mapping 400 billion stars and all the rest of it, and I'm an explorer mostly. When I go out, I do tend to see orange star, white star, blue star, kind of dark red star, lots of planets, some with rings, some not with rings. There's a lot of news articles coming out at the moment. You seem to have one every few days, people posting on Facebook, how a new system has been found by NASA with 5 stars, and it's nothing like we've ever seen before, and stars touching and black holes taking matter from other stars and things like that. I would very much like to see things like that in the game.
Okay, so
a bit of variation.
A bit of variation for the explorers. I think that's probably a great shout. Exploration is one of those things that, at the moment, I don't think gets enough love. In terms of the guys that go out and find all these new systems, and as Sam says, it's a red star, it's a white star, it's a couple of red stars, it's a couple of white stars, it's a black hole.
That just means they haven't explored enough.
And we got very excited first of all when everybody started going down to Sagittarius A, to the center of the galaxy. It was a really big thing for the explorers. But there's nothing out there. That's changed slightly in terms of the unknown artifacts, but it would be really nice if the exploration guys got a bit more love in terms of what would be out there, in terms of, I don't know, finding missions on the fly, for example, like a distress beacon way out in the middle of nowhere that you can then pick up a mission that's separate to the space station missions that you can collect. Just something that gives the exploration career just a little bit more love.
You come across the occasional unidentified signal source, and it's usually just a few canisters of junk or something that you think, do I take it and then limit my jump range? And then it's going to take my time getting back to actually sell the thing. Some missions, maybe in an unidentified signal source that you could then pick up, like say on the fly, and be involved. Something that you don't even have to go back to the core worlds for. Do out on the run in the middle of nowhere, and maybe something along them lines.
I mean, if you think about the original game, those people that can remember back that far, some of the missions that you got in there was our star has just gone supernova. If you can put in, for example, into Elite Dangerous, that there is a small colony, of religious zealots or something that have managed to get out into the back of beyond, and they've set up this colony in a star system, and the sun is literally about to go supernova, and they send you a distress beacon. You have to go to a certain place, pick them up, and take them to the place they want to go, like 3 systems away. It doesn't interrupt your exploration for more than maybe, I don't know, half an hour's worth of travel to take them where they want to go. They give you, I don't know, some cash, they give you some sort of module that they've been working on, or some more information on interesting places to go and explore. That's the sort of thing I see that would be a really good way for exploration to get a little bit of love. Crash?
I think the tricky thing is as much as, I mean, David said himself that he would love to have all these really interesting items and these astrological things that we can, astronomical things that we can get to, stellar objects, accretion disks, things like that. But they're so rare, just like supernovas, they're so rare that we would barely see any. If we did see any, they would be a one-off event like a supernova, and is it really worth the effort of putting that in if only a few people are going to play it, and that's the trouble, is trying to make something which is really interesting. I would love to see contact binaries and swirling, particle effects of things going. It would look amazing. It would be absolutely awesome. But it's trying to balance that. What's worth the time, versus what are people going to experience?
Okay, I mean, replace supernova for solar flare then.
Yeah.
That could happen. That could be the sort of thing where. I mean, it might be to the case, depending on how random it is. You might say it's another bloody colony with another bloody solar flare. The exploration is like, how do these guys keep on getting into this mess? We're crying out! It's the fourth one this week.
Maybe a comet or two.
Exactly. So you need to do a balancing act. But yeah, I do think that exploration is one of those careers at the moment that just needs a little bit more loving.
Variation.
Ben?
Yeah, I totally agree, but I think, and I would love to see things like contact binaries and so on, but to give Frontier a wee bit of credit and to have a go at the journalists, they go off and say, NASA will release this little press release saying, we've got this thing that has 1 in 10 chance of maybe kind of sorta overlapping with another star. And then these journalists read that and say, hey, look, we've got this star inside another star. No, it's like their error bars are about that wide. And that annoys me about just online journalism for sort of star things and things.
Okay, so you'd want it to be realistic. So you wouldn't want Frontier jumping on every single Daily Mail article on astronomy that's going. We seem to be giving the Daily Mail a really hard time this day, but. Excellent. Thanks very much, Sam. Wow, another giant to the microphone.
Hello, Ian, Commander Splendor. Just to follow on the exploration. There's a lot of focus on the big bodies, the planets, the stars, but what I'd like to see is a lot more of the small bodies added into systems. We've got the basics of sort of asteroid belts, which are just little patches of rock, but it's all the things like comets, rogue moons, just floating around in weird orbits. I don't know how many thousand bodies that have been mapped in our own solar system, and yet we can only visit about 20 of them in game at the moment.
Yes. You're so demanding.
Just
what would you like? I mean, you can visit them. What would you like to do with? This is sounding dodgy. What would you like to do with them?
Well, just look at them, basically.
Okay, so that doesn't take much development. You can just stare at it. But what about things like?
Well, in future, when there's more options for mining.
So an MB4 mining machine and things like that.
Also, the opportunity maybe to sort of scoop the tail of a comet.
Like it. Okay, that's a nice idea. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that we talked about in development that hasn't yet made it into the game is things like hidden pirate bases. Asteroid pirate bases, that was definitely there in the development cycle, yet to be implemented. I mean, that you had to actually search out yourself or get
a contact.
They
would give you a navigation point, and suddenly it would be there in the ring. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So that was certainly one of the things that we were looking at in the development cycle. So, I mean, is it just things that you want to stare at, or things that you'd like to interact with that you'd want to see?
Ultimately, yes, things to interact with, but having the smaller bodies there means that there's then more options to do other things with them later. It's very much like the rings are there, and they're filled with thousands of individual bodies, which, yes, aren't necessarily persistent, but are at least consistent. If they could do a similar sort of thing for other sort of free flow bodies within the system, the Oort clouds beyond, things like that.
I mean, that's a great point, and certainly. That opens the door to unique items as well. We've been talking about, in the development cycle, we've been talking about the authors having particular things from their stories injected into their particular systems. It would be nice to have a little bit of variety into the landscape, the stuff that you'd actually visit a system to go to see, other than obviously 3 stars that are red that are closer together than the next system over. But I mean, all these things I think are things nice to have, stuff that I think will come eventually. They're natural evolutions of the game. Next question. Thank you very much. Sorry, a round of applause for Ian. Thank you, Ian. Hold on a second. What's currently happened? We asked for people to come up to the microphone like half an hour ago, and none of you were standing up. Now we've got 10 minutes to go. We've got a massive queue. You know?
At least this queue now is in order of height, so that suits me.
Excellent. Next question.
Hello, Stephen Usher. Well, following on from that, quickly, actually doing detailed scans of objects, as in be able to do surface scans flying over them would be a nice extension. But anyway, going on to the Galnet News and the web app, the app that's on for tablets and things.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be a wonderful way of doing the Galnet News on the app? That app hasn't been updated for, what, 6 months or more?
Yeah, intentionally so. They pulled development for it because they didn't really. What was the explanation? They weren't sure what direction they wanted to take it. So rather than
doing an API, aren't they?
Well, they were going to do an API. There was various things. I mean, we can ask them at the Q&A session, but I think basically they were going to take it in a different direction, and rather than spend time investing on development, they shelved it until they knew exactly what they wanted to do with it, and they'll bring it back when they've got a clear vision for it. But yeah, I didn't say it, but yeah, the Galnet News on the app for me would be the easiest way for me to sit in meetings and do no work. There is a website obviously that you can get on your tablet, but something like the app, something that makes it a little bit more interactive, maybe something that gives you access to the power play side of things on the tablet. Would allow me to do less work at work and more looking at Frontier when I'm supposed to be doing work.
Yes, especially as it knows where you are located in the galaxy, so it could give you the local news as well, which has happened. There are a few local news items that have appeared, but they seem to have dried up recently.
Yeah, no, agreed. Anybody else got a point on that? Yeah, good point. Thank you very much, Stephen. Our Swedish friend. Hello, sir.
Hey, guys.
Introduce yourself, tell you where we're from.
Yeah, so it's Commander Eirik here from Malmö, Sweden, and visiting my second year and having a good time. Yay.
Congratulations. Thank you. You're one of the people that's travelled the furthest to come to Lavecon, so thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I didn't know if I'm going to ask this question now or later, but I felt that start with it here, because you started a discussion about Galnet and the way it's, for me, it's all UX, kind of the experience of how it's done. And the reason why I want to talk about it is just because the whole way of when PowerPlay hit and the Galnet newsfeed, the PowerPlay newsfeed, it's just out of game because you start it, it's a new thing that starts. Whereas with the old thing, when you landed in a station, you got this hologram kind of thingy.
Yep.
And for me, you know, as a UX, working with UX people, for me that is just wrong. You know, it just hurts to see that, you know, and it scared me a little bit because I've loved all the work and everything's been very nicely polished. Even when I started out the alpha, I almost fell off my chair going like, is this really alpha? You know, and that just kind of scared me a little bit and wanted to highlight this thing of being like, please, you know, if you release something, think of it in-game. And not something that pulls you out of it. Because I would love reading the Galnet news, but if I'm flying or doing anything and do this, that, I have no clue what's happening in the background. And I don't even know if lasers start shooting at you, or if I have my sound turned off, you know. So yeah, so that was just the idea, the topic.
Good point, guys.
Yep. Agree. So, well, maybe make it a bit more holographic or something like that. It's like a virtual newspaper in front of your screen to pick up or something.
No, the whole thing is about the text-to-speech. Text-to-speech technology has come on so far in recent years. That's got to be something relatively similar to sort of, you know, Galnet News. We're long past that now.
I want the Brian Blessed voice pack reading me Galnet News.
Galnet News!
What, just me? Surely.
All breaks out in Lave today.
No, but for me, I was more thinking, like, even if it's just a transparent border around it, it just at least gives you the feeling that you're not jumping from one thing to a black screen, and you're like, where is this black screen? You know, if you want to be immersive.
Excellent.
It's just something. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Eric, thank you. just going to your point about Brian Blessed. We couldn't get Brian Blessed to do this. Brian Blessed turns up in absolutely everything.
Lave radio, transmitting to every corner of the galaxy.
Yeah, you
Lave
can't get
radio,
Brian Blessed.
transmitting to every corner of the galaxy.
He will do pretty much anything.
He will.
Radio, transmitting to every corner of the galaxy.
So we do have Brian Blessed ringtones at Lave Radio as well. So just to show that Brian Blessed will do pretty much anything for very little money. But
Gordon's alive.
Yes, Fozzer's alive. Next question, sir.
Douglas, Commander Palando. In Power Play, you've got this lovely game of competing powers and deciding which systems to prepare and expand. And 9/10 of the people aren't in communication with any others doing it, and they're just picking the closest system, and it's seemingly not achieving what you intended to achieve when you made it. And I'm interested in what your thoughts have been so far on ways to modify that. For instance, you have the Elite Forums, you've got Galnet. Have you considered having power-specific Galnet streams, having a forum which only someone pledged to a particular power can read, and links to that from the... to make it more integrated? I don't know if you're ever looking at going into player-initiated missions and staking bounties for others to claim, but some sort of interaction where a group of the people can give a hint, say, don't prepare that one, prepare this one. What's your thoughts on providing more interaction for the 9/10 who haven't yet sort of gone and joined a clan or whatever specific to their power?
I'm going to have to hand this one over to Crash, because I could see you talking, but I was far too busy admiring your beard to actually listen to what you were saying. So, John, pick it up on that, please.
It's something that is being considered to create. Excellent.
He's upped his game.
To create power-specific threads in the forum and something which is locked to specific users. So it is something that we'd like to do to encourage that communication, because that is the key thing, is to get people to work together to that end goal. So we want to make that happen.
Because Power Play is one of those things that is amazing fun when you are working with a group of people.
Yes.
And it's when you're using the likes of TeamSpeak, you're kind of going, right, okay, look, that system's under crisis, let's go there, and you all fly in together, you all meet up there and you tackle the goals, and you go, right, let's go and destabilize that. And the problem, as you say, is without a common thread of organization, your power is it's just treading water. Yeah. So you're never going to expand, and you're never going to manage, and everyone's going to the same systems and reinforcing it because they don't know and they're not coordinated. So I think, some way of being able to bring people together in that power is going to make Power Play far more attractive, because there's a lot of lone players out there that don't have access to TeamSpeak.
So you can reassure me that's on the to-do list?
We can't reassure you of anything apart from the fact that we're going to ask the developers if it's on the to-do list.
What we'll do is I shall write this down on a to-do list. Just for you. I don't know if it's going to make any difference.
Thank you very much indeed, mate. And no pressure at all, but we are literally wrapping up because the Frontier crew have wandered into the room. So this is going to be our final question. Make it a good one.
Hi, so my name is Przemek. I'm Commander Matthias Shalograve in game. And just wanted to touch briefly on black markets and the how kind of pretty much basic they feel at the moment. They kind of located in contacts.
Don't get me started on that.
They are located in official contacts menu in the station, right next to to the security contacts. It just feels wrong to have, and I think there is so much potential in that context in a game to have that kind of expanded upon. You could search for certain contacts in game, trying to find out where the black market is. You could have loads of different missions with with black markets as a background. And this aspect of the game stayed pretty much the same since it's been released, and even before, I think the same since Premium Beta. That's when I've joined the game. I just think that could use a little bit more love, that particular part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question. And again, we've got to hark back to what we saw in the original DDFs and stuff in terms of building up contacts and the black markets and pirate bases and asteroids and hidden things for people to discover. It's one that I think as a panel we would all love to have. It's one of the ones that I'm hoping that someone, if nobody does, I'm going to ask Sandy about it in about 5 minutes' time. In terms of building up contacts and having a bit more sort of variety in terms of these sort of black markets and having a bit more variety for the pirates and smuggling and building up contacts and reputations within these particular sort of minor factions, as opposed to going to the bulletin board and going, I would like to sell some illegal contraband, please. Press button. Hello.
Do you think of us, though, that when we get out of cockpit, it's going to be even more interesting when you have to go down the bar and start, putting credits on the table and sort of chatting up people, and then they say, yeah, follow me down this way, through these air ducts. No, it's fine, it's completely safe. Take to the black market, and then you sort of wake up in hospital.
Hold on a second, hold on. You want to have some sort of strange chat-up mini-game in the bar system.
Absolutely.
That doesn't sound like my Elite Dangerous. Excellent. Well, guys, that worked brilliantly. A massive thank you to everybody that had questions. That's it for another episode of Lave Radio, a special episode of Lave Radio live from Lavecon 2015. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, then you can email info@laveradio.com. Facebook, we are /Lave Radio, @Lave Radio on Twitter. You can join the Skype chat channel by adding Fozzer101 to your Skype contacts, or you can join the TeamSpeak server where commanders come and hang out. We are laveradio.teamspeak3.com. Thanks to all the panel. Some of them have wandered off, but we've got Grant, we've got Lisa, we've got Ben, we've got John, we've got Mr. Stabler, and also Mr. Jarvis and Mr. Stroud. And finally, a massive, massive thank you to all the audience here at Lavecon 2015. Give yourselves a round of applause. So until next time, fly safe, and if you can't do that, fly dangerous.
Sounds like someone having an orange inserted. You need a safe word. Space. I'm going to see the galaxy.